G'day Beyond All Reason fans, you can see what's on your screen ladies and gents. It's a tier maker list, and today at All Reason No Logic we are reviewing CORTEX bots. In this video we have three mates that are going to argue over where each of these bots sit on the tier list. In some cases we're going to be 2 versus 1 on an opinion, and the unit will go where the majority rules. Where there are differing opinions, we're going to go by averages. When reviewing these legends of the battlefield, we are considering them from a use and effectiveness point of view only, rather than comparing them to their Armada or Legion counterparts. Perhaps we will do that in another video. I am Twig and joined by Pradith and Tank Tom. We are here to give our opinion on what is what when it comes to the CORTEX bot.
We're going to start with the Grave Robber. And I don't know if there's going to be any argument out of this. This is an S tier. Just plain and simple, it's an S tier. This is a unit that wins you games so often. The reclaim from a battlefield, win or lose, like win or lose the fight, the reclaim is going to win you the battle.
It's one of those units that you should make sure that you've always got a few of them around the field, because they're always going to be useful no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, and if you team game and you go in vehicles or aircraft, you want to be asking your mates for one of these or two of these to go around and reclaim those wreckages, because it will make the difference.
Hey
Not
guys,
to mention,
can I have a res bot?
No, you can't have a res bot. I'm using mine to reclaim trees, which is exactly what you should do if you're on a map with any sort of reclaimable energy, because it's going to be better than whatever your wind and whatever your solar can do, at least for the first couple minutes of the game.
So we're definitely not going to argue like we said we would in the intro of this video.
Yeah, that's because it's the Grave Robber. We put it first to give us a freebie.
That's
It's
it.
like the Grunt. It's also an S tier, and we put that one first too.
We definitely all agree on that one, I think. What do you reckon, Tom?
Yep.
I actually think, personally, best unit in the game. That's my personal opinion.
I actually agree on that one. I'd drag that one right up against the S, because then it's even higher than the Grave Robber. Because the Grunt is just... It doesn't really matter how late into the game you get. The Grunt is still useful.
It's like straight out of the gate, if you've got ticks rushing you, because it shoots a laser rather than plasma, it takes those units down straight away. They outrange the Grunt, the pawn as well. So if microed well, they're so good, and they're quite cheap. Like, they're very cheap, and you can put a lot of them out. They're great for spam. They don't get taken out by the Juno. So let's leave that one there. My favorite unit in the game.
And they're also even in the rocket bot.
Aggravator.
I'm gonna step back on
great
this
at
one.
taking out T1 defenses.
They do that.
End up moving on to other things.
They outrange LLTs, which is great.
Yeah.
They also shoot your pawns in the back of the head.
yeah, they do. Twig, you're the master of aggravators. You use them to great effect in our PvP games. How high do you sit these? Because I've never like, they're good. Don't get me wrong, but they're never part of a composition that I use to try to overwhelm and win. Probably because I suck.
So where do you put it, Prey?
I'd put it somewhere between A and B tier.
What about you, Tom?
Yeah, I was going to say somewhere in that sort of ballpark as well. They're good. You can always build them, but they're not always the right option.
Yeah. I mean, I said I wouldn't compare too much to the other teams, but they are pretty much the Rocketeer. They're a little bit slower than them, but their health is ever so slightly more, and I think they're slightly cheaper as well. And then the weapon range is just so good at taking out LLTs. That's where their early use is, and you get these in a long line of them, and they do a lot of damage, but and probably not completely game changing, because you just need to counter them with something with a bit of oomph or a bit of speed.
Would you say it's a fair call to say that they're a great unit for offense, but if you get put on the defensive with them, you're going to struggle a bit?
Yeah, I like that assessment. They're definitely more of a siege rocket bot. They're great against static defenses, like it says in the cutoff image there. But if you've got a whole bunch of pawns or grunts running into your base,
yeah, they're not going to help.
They're probably going to hit your own structures. That's what they're going to do. They're going to help the enemy. So we'll put that one at the B tier right now. I have to think about that, because yeah, I love them. Looking from the community perspective, I'm thinking maybe it's more towards the B.
Yeah.
Personally,
happy
maybe
with
A.
right at the top end of B or the bottom end
Yeah.
of A.
Yeah, maybe I'll drag that up there. Let's see how uneven our chart looks at the end of this. We'd like to see a nice flat line of units across this.
It's a
And
sine curve. Oh, sorry, it's a distribution curve, boys.
that's it. Let's jump onto the thug.
The
Tom,
thug.
this is your unit.
I like the thugs.
It's
I
because you
use
are
them
a
as like
thug.
a 1.5-ish. When you can get a mass of them running together, is great.
They're probably the only unit, like with their speed, comparing them to the, I mean, even the Centurion's a bit slow, but they're the only unit that really is a good combat to, not a counter to, but just they can hold their own against vehicles.
They're decent frontline. They're decent damage. And they always seem to do more than I expect them to do. But not when I'm using them. They never do anything.
Having
You
said
just
all
need
of that,
more of them.
with all the, like, they cost 140 a pop, and you do need to get a lot of them out for them to be quite effective, I feel. Personally, I think they're still only a C tier unit, even though they are a great unit. I think they're C tier.
I think that they are worse than the Aggravator. But I don't necessarily think that they'd be they could be B or C. They'd just be very low end B or very high end C.
What do you reckon, Tom?
I was gonna stick them at least in B.
I'd be happy with the
my
bottom end of B tier.
they're my go-to T1 unit where you're gonna be in T1 for a little bit longer. So if you're just smashing straight into T2, they're not overly worth it. But if you're gonna be on T1 for another 5 minutes, they can do a lot of work. And they
They're
can hold
also
their own relatively well into T2, or at least for the first couple of minutes anyway.
they're also reasonably quick to reclaim, so they can be used as temporary metal storage.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right, let's leave that one there, and we'll just keep moving that one towards the end of B tier, I think.
I wonder if I can add another row, because I've got a row that I want to add for the next unit.
Don't add another row.
I'll show you why. This is going to be the F tier to fail. And I'm getting that up because the next unit, I do not like the amphibious anti-air bot, the CORTEX Trasher. It is just slow. It does its job, I guess, in taking out air, but I'd rather walk my commander behind my tier 1 army and just throw up a tier 1 anti-air battery. I forgot what it's
But that
called
doesn't
now.
help you when the 15 gunships rock up and you can't get the battery up because your commander's dying.
That's where your air
I-
player needs to have some fighters on the field by that stage of the game, I would hope.
I'm going to agree with that. I'm going to put that in the fail tier along with you. The one thing that I can say that's good about them, because I've seen this a couple of times in team play, I've seen someone get a couple of these out and just throw them in a line across all the players' bases. And that meant that he could move a couple of them into position when someone was getting air raided. And so it meant instead of just having one AA turret in each location, you had one, maybe two when it started, and three by the end.
Yeah.
That was a really interesting use for them. But the flip side to that is if you throw them in an army composition, because there's no sort of smart entity movement or anything like that, unless you're using formations or things like that. If you accidentally grab all your units and just put them on a fight command towards the enemy, they will run out the front and kill themselves. It's so annoying.
Well, one thing I'll add with these units, they do cost 125 metal, and the damage they do is 55. And if you compare that to the what's it called, the Thistle, just that T1, it only costs 80 metal for a Thistle, the anti-air light anti-air tower, and the damage is 68. So to me, like I said at the start, I reckon I'd just rather build a couple of anti-airs because they shoot just as fast and they do more damage and they're cheaper.
It's not like, and this isn't just like I think. How often do we build trashers?
If I play against AI,
None
I
of us
might
can
build.
remember the last time we built a trasher.
Yeah, AI games, sure. PvP, probably not.
The only times that you start building them is when you're panic building the anti-air and you're like, just get me more something to shoot at the sky.
Yep.
But I never plan to build them.
I reckon I'm happy with that. Let's jump on to the next one.
Don't even get to
Twitcher.
hear your vote, Tom. You're outnumbered.
Oh no, it can stay down there. That's fine.
Yeah, the Twitcher, Cortex's answer to the console from Armada, which is a vehicle. Actually, sorry, the counterpart is that the Butler, but very different uses. Butler's more of an eco engineer, whereas the Twitcher is more of a combat engineer. It runs around the field and builds a hell of a lot more.
For me, the Twitcher is either a high A tier or a middling S tier, because as you said, the Twitcher can be used to build a whole bunch of stuff. That includes mexes, it includes build turrets, it includes siege weapons, it includes flak. It can even build ducks and fiends.
That's the thing,
all
like
that.
with ducks, like you can just run a Twitcher over to an ocean or a bay that you want to attack through a particular lane and just pop down 3 or 4 of these. Same goes to the Fiend. Run this into like a backline, sneak it somewhere, and then build a bunch of Fiends and yeah, Bob's your uncle, because you can build the Shroud as well out of these. You can hide somewhere, build a little base, do a lot of damage, and for me, I'm agreeing with that A tier.
And it can also build a construction bot. And if you're someone that
Which is
eats your
so
tier 1
good
lab to
after
get
you've
to tier
gotten rid
2,
of your T1 lab.
yeah, yeah. So, and it also fills the same role as the Grave Robber in that you can use it to reclaim metal. For me, this is a high tier unit any way you swing it.
And
May,
it can
what about
also
you,
be
Tom?
used as mobile build power as well. Like you can
Yep.
set these to follow your T2 constructor and have them assist.
Yeah.
Yep. It's either the top of the A tier or mid to bottom of S tier. That's at least that's where my vote lands.
Yeah, I'll go A personally.
Yeah, these are one that I'd kind of forgotten about, and now I'm starting to actually remember them and putting them.
You just want to
Having
get
that
in
sort
game
of-
and use one right now, don't you?
Yep. In fact, let's stop this tier list. Let's jump into game and then we'll get back to it. All right, everybody, we're back at this. Just played a quick game.
I love it. Okay, the next 2 units, let's evaluate them together. We know their purpose. It's the radar bot and it's the radar jamming bot. Very similar purposes. One's for radar, one is to prevent radar picking up your units. So it's the Deceiver, which is the radar jamming bot, and it is I always forget these names, the Auger, the radar bot.
So easy for me. These are high A tier or low S tier. There's no question in my mind. You find these attached to Sheldon balls, anything similar to that, because it gives you the ability to shoot with your Sheldons. It gives you the ability to not be shot with your Sheldons. They also have really good other useful mechanics. This isn't exactly the same unit, but on the Armada side, I used one of those along with a set of recluses to get my spiders all the way up to a cliff without anyone seeing them on radar, and then letting my recluses walk right on in completely undetected.
Yeah, that is handy. You can do that with the termites, of course, from
Yep.
Cortex. So,
So
what do you reckon,
radars
Tom?
and jammers, regardless of what your composition is,
They're
you're
going
going to be building them to support your team.
Mm-hmm.
About the only thing you don't send them with is your spam, but everything else gets a radar and jammer along with it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I'd
we
chuck
did
'em
say
in.
at the start of the video that this isn't comparing to other factions. This is more so comparing, like evaluating for its use. So from that
Yeah.
use point of view, they're both
100%.
needed. What
Yep.
do you guys reckon?
I agree.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You can always have a radar and a jammer with it.
Yeah. Okay. Getting into the danger end of the TT units, the ones that do the damage. We're starting off with the Fiend. Tom, I reckon I see you build these more than any other unit.
These are fantastic. They have to be S tier, right? They're like pawns with flamethrowers.
Yeah, they're pawns with shields and flamethrowers. It's not an inaccurate description.
They only cost 200 metal. They do 240 damage per second. Their weapon range isn't great at 230, but they are freaking fast. 83 is their speed.
Their DPS is bonkers. Not just because it's the DPS is 240, but it's AOE. Just it's absolutely insane. You run these things into grouped units
to get the surround bonus on pretty much anything you're fighting.
Well, how about this for the Fiend? The Fiend has that self-destruct ability, and in 1
Yeah, no one uses
second,
that.
I use it a lot. In 1
Yeah, but
second,
you're
and
you.
yeah, but if you listen to this, you might start. So you heard it's 240 DPS, right? If you use the self-destruct function, it deals 1,110 damage with a 100 radius.
That's not
Those
bad.
king bases are gonna go pop now that I
Yep.
know this.
Yep.
You get fiends somewhere, you separate one off into like a hound will die instantly to a self-destruct. So if someone is not microing hounds very well and has them in a ball, one fiend is enough to blow up all the hounds within that 100 radius.
I'm gonna look at that. Health of 1280 for the hound. So I reckon it's either that or it's incredibly close to that.
All right, maybe I've damaged the hounds a little bit with the flame before they blow up.
Yeah,
And
well,
that's
that's the
probably
thing.
it.
Just by getting there, they're gonna put that DPS on. So
Yeah.
you might not get them all, but damn,
What
that's a
is
pretty
the
cheap
speed
sacrifice.
of the hound?
Speed of the hound is just
Slower
give me
from
1
memory.
second. It's very high. It's 69, which is
69.
perfect. Just by the way, don't
Perfect
change that.
speed, but not as fast as the fiends, which are at 83. So,
If you need a fast response unit, if you need a base rating unit, if you need if you need to cross a large distance to get into the fight sort of unit, if you need defense against spam unit, the Fiend, in my opinion, is one of the best fast assault units in the game.
Yeah, a fiend is my go-to. Whenever you hit T2, you always have a handful of them.
Yep.
Even if I'm running like a Sheldon bowl, I often have a few of these in front because the thing that'll kill them is spam, and these will deal with the spam.
yeah. Well, we're talking like this is an S tier, but
I'm going to chuck it in A.
personally, I'm A because
Yep.
I feel like you can attack them quite easily. You can run away from fiends and turn a hound onto Gorse mode, and it will shoot them down in a couple shots.
No, I'm perfectly happy with A for these ones because they're not a unit that they're not a unit that's good for every single situation in every single game, like
So
the
you can
units
pretty
we
much
have
always build
in
them.
S tier.
Mm.
But there is almost always an opportunity to use them, and they will be very effective when you do.
Yeah, you're never going to go hugely wrong if you happen to build them and commit to that strategy for a game.
Yep.
All right,
Sheldon.
Sheldon.
It's slow. It's got really long range, and it is siege like almost nothing else in the
I
game.
wouldn't say it's slow. It's speed's 50.
It's
That's
slow.
still pretty good.
It's slow.
I've lost so many of them to things just swarming them. They can't run away from everything.
You need to micro in groups, mister. I like them. I like their speed. I actually think their speed's one of their benefits. I know it's slower than a hound or something, but you get them in big numbers and their area of effect is quite massive.
It's a Sheldon ball. Everyone who's ever played Bar has either used or played against a Sheldon ball. This is a unit that falls into the same tier as the Fiend, in that it's pretty much a fantastic unit to come out of your T2 lab regardless of the time in the game, unless you're talking like super end tier 3 absolute bullshit.
The biggest thing with a Sheldon is range is 850, which is quite massive for a unit that costs 410. And you spit out 15 of these, you're doing some heavy damage. If you can get anywhere near an eco, that eco is going down very, very quickly to the Sheldons. If you can find a commander, if your air player scouts a commander just behind a army that you're up against, these things have just enough health that you can push them that little bit further, take a little bit of damage, but snipe that commander that might just be behind an army. I love them. Personally, for me, they're A's.
I put them in A. I actually put them fractionally ahead of the Fiend in A.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Tom doesn't. Bad luck.
No, that's right. Everything in A is you
Yeah.
can basically build it every single game without having to think too hard.
We're talking the difference between like a 90 and a 91% for me when it comes to these.
Yeah. Okay. Our next unit, we've got the Sumo. Almost called it the can. Can looks like a can. That's the name of its equivalent from Total Annihilation.
It's got a laser on top that is perfectly good for defending your Sheldon balls. It takes a lot of damage.
5,400 health. It's huge.
It's huge. It's a big boy. and putting a couple of these in front of your Sheldon ball will save you so much money. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I usually I think I build 3 to 15. So 3 of these, I forgot the name again, Sumo. 3 Sumos, 15 Sheldons, a Auger, I always forget these names. The
Radar and
Deceiver.
jammer.
Yes.
It's a radar and a jammer. Let's just be real.
And an anti-air, and you're set against AI, and you're set against that
Most
mid-tier range of people, mid to low tier. Obviously, those chads of the game probably getting around these typical compositions,
Easily.
but they are good.
Yeah.
Having said that, they're not great.
Yeah,
They
are.
are
They're a
easy
B
to
or a
hit.
C.
They're
Honestly.
so slow. So slow.
They're a situation unit. If you're gonna have them waddling in front of your Sheldon ball, they're fantastic. There isn't really many reasons I can think of off the top of my head to build them by themselves.
I'd
So they're
chuck it in
basically there
C
to
tier
support.
because I would keep my thugs in front of my army over having a couple of sumos there.
Little note on that, I actually do that with my rocket bots. So if I get to that T2 stage of the game, I'll build some Sheldons before I'll build some Fiends or some Sumos, and then I'll keep my Aggravators in front of my Sheldons for a while, reclaim any grunts I have for the metal to fund those Sheldons, and yeah, can do the same with the thugs as well. Thugs and Aggravators, similar cost.
I think one of the key things to think about right now is that the C tier, it's the tier where the unit in it is not bad. However, you have to have a reason to build it. B tier and
Yep.
upwards means that the unit is good and you can build it almost regardless of whether the situation is perfect. But C tier is just highly specialized units, in my opinion. Nothing wrong with the sumo, but the amount of time and the use you're going to get out of it, middling.
We're not
Good at
arguing
what it
enough.
does.
We're agreeing too much.
We play the game together daily and we stream it 3 days a week and we mostly play Cortex. We know what's what.
This
Every
is
so
true.
often we play Tigs.
Yeah, I do love a tick rush. Let's jump on to the next unit. It's the Arbiter, the ever trusty rocket bot. Huge range out of these things. It's got a range of, forgotten it, 1210. Huge.
It is a C tier for me because it's the exact same thing as the sumo. When you are fighting into a heavily defended position, this thing is worth its weight in gold.
That is
Provided you can
right.
defend it.
My opinion, it's a D tier unit because it is great, but it's
Ooh.
great for specific uses only. I might build 1 or 2 of these if I have a purpose for them, but the times I come across a game where I have that purpose, they're quite rare because you're usually up against armies rather than static defense when these units can be afforded in a game. And I'm just thinking 5 minutes later, I might be throwing up tier 3 and I'm bringing out Shivas, which will have the same rockets strapped to their back with a similar range, I think. That's my opinion. D, it's down to you, Tom.
I can't remember the last time I built an Arbiter.
Oh, it sounds like it's D then.
My argument against D is that if you do need that range, is there a better choice? And the answer is no.
No.
Whereas a unit that I would put in D tier, it means that regardless of when you build it, there is a better choice.
Okay. So
Yeah, when you need them.
Single use unit, Tom, you're the deciding factor. Is it C or D?
I reckon it's C. It's situational, but when you need them, they're good. And every so often you can use them to launch like over a hill and do something disgusting.
Yes.
They are a filthy unit. I agree there.
They are a filthy unit, and I love it.
Like
on a snap twig, I've been outvoted.
Yeah, when their use case is there, they are really good at what they do and a pain to deal with because often they're the other side of that army behind the hill and over there sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the duck.
Termite. Oh, sorry. The duck. The duck is a bad unit on land. It is. And it's a really good unit in water. But, Dan Twig, you're going to fight me on this one. The duck's a D tier. Because, and you're going to say it's not because of how good it is in the water. But if I need to deal with something,
I'm
not building
I'm
ducks.
not dealing with it.
I'm going to argue that you just made a comment recently, about 1-2 minutes ago, about B tier and above, you build this when it's got its single purpose. You can build it by itself because you've got a reason to build it. You don't need to build it around other units. And these ducks, I see them used so much when someone's losing like an ocean on a Supreme Isthmus, and you just punch out 15 of these and they just completely annihilate a navy by themselves. For me, they're a B tier.
See, I'd just chuck a lab in the ocean and start building subs.
These are cheaper, and you've already got the bot lab up probably. And you can build them with the Twitcher.
Ducks are terrible.
Yeah,
ducks
normally
are
if I have
D
normally
tier
if
for
I'm on
ducks.
land, I'm on land, and if I need to stop something coming out of the water, you just build a couple torpedo launchers
Yep.
and an LLT or two, and
I'm B.
leave it be.
You're D. Where are you,
I'm
Tom?
D.
Tom's B?
Can't
I heard him say
remember
leave it
building
be.
ducks.
They're a D tier unit, and that's that.
It's a straight
I
up
can't
disagreement. Tom, you're the deciding factor. Currently, it's sitting at C because we're averaging myself and
No,
Prey.
no, no.
I've-
You said advantage rules on this one. 2v1.
I can't remember the last
said
time I had
B.
a reason to build ducks.
What'd you say,
the
Tom? I
last
swear
time.
you said B.
No,
You said
I've
D.
never built ducks. Probably.
Oh,
No.
man.
It's somewhere down there. I can't remember the last time I either lost to ducks. or
People
had a
get the
reason
hell
to
in the
build them.
comments section and tell these guys are wrong. Tell them they're wrong.
You know what? Better yet, jump in our Discord. Send us games where you've won a lost game using ducks. We won't get any.
Guarantee you will.
No,
There's a challenge,
there's no
people.
way.
Discord link is down in the description. Please, someone show us
I want to
those.
see games where ducks have actually done something. It's just not going to happen.
Nah. I'm going to start swearing on this stream. Let's move on to the next unit.
This is another D tier unit.
Termite.
The Termite has one purpose and one purpose only, and it's bad at it, and that's going up hills.
I agree.
Yeah, when I used these in the Kings game the other day, I got stuff up there and I was like, oh, nothing's dying.
Yeah, they don't do anything.
Oh,
Once again, we can't compare specifically to the other factions, but the Recluse from Armada is so much better.
The Recluse from the Armada is A tier.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
just crazy how different these two units are, but I understand two teams aren't the same, so two factions aren't the same.
They supposedly fill the same role, but they really don't, because if you're going to do an assault up a up a cliff or whatever, then just play Armada.
That's right. And if you're talking about it from the equivalent video from Armada, which we may do, I'm sure we will, you're going to be building a couple webbers in with those Recluse, which go and help paralyze and reclaim. So not only do you have the Recluse, you've got a supporting unit that paralyzes the enemy and reclaims the metal as the webbers, the Recluses are destroying them.
Yep. But jumping back to the point of this tier list, which is whether you should build them if you're playing Cortex, the answer is no. They're so slow that, yep, they give you a nice attack vector, but if you can find like the amount of metal you're going to spend on this, I can almost guarantee, unless it's the most locked down opponent you've ever seen, you will find better use by rushing him with Fiends, trying a Sheldon ball, anything along that, and just not using that extra attack avenue. The Termite is... It just doesn't...
600 metal compared to the Fiend's 200,
Yep.
so you could build 3 Fiends instead and run around
And
the hill that you're trying to get up.
so many Termites to get up and do damage because they are just so weak.
Yeah. All right.
I will take the 15 Fiends over the 5 Termites.
Yep. Every time.
The
Every
Spectre.
time, it's not even close. Spectre, this is a unit that when you detonate it, it EMPs, right?
This is
going to be your choice to place. At least you're going to get my vote on this one because you use them effectively and I don't build them at all. So Twig, you're
I've
going to
never
get 2
made
votes
use
on
of
this
them
one.
well.
I love both the Spectre and the Ghost, which is the Armada equivalent. They both have the similar use. They can be obviously cloaked. They're stealth. They're sonar stealth. You can take them through. Can these go through water? Oh, no, they can't. I don't know why they're sonar stealth. I'm reading it straight off the page. But yeah, they obviously use a bit more energy to run while they're cloaked. But they're just such a good unit at maybe picking off that little bit more experienced player with the EMP. I can't remember how long an EMP's units for. It's like 10 seconds or something, quite long.
It's long enough to EMP
Maybe longer
an
than that.
anti-nuke, and it's long enough to EMP an anti-nuke and drop a nuke on it.
And I've done it many times. I reckon I've probably 2 or 3 OS higher than what I would be without them.
Hint, hint, if you want to climb in ladder, just do that. Nuke rush using these things. No one can deal with it. It's fine.
I remember one of my favorite games I ever had. There was a little bit of as you get in all computer games, a little bit of online malice in a previous game where a player was a little bit nasty to another teammate of mine, and I made it my personal passion when I wasn't put on his team the next game. I went a Cortex Spectre and waited in his back line for him to finish an APHIS. And then the second it went down. One of my favourite moments of bar ever. So for me, I am putting this B tier. A tier? B tier. I'll go B tier just because of the lack of use of
it's a very specific use, but it's a game win. But it's a win condition.
Yeah. Once those front lines are formed, you're not going to sneak them through very easily. They have that orange circle that goes around their unit as you're walking them into somebody else's structures or units. They can be picked up and die almost instantly. They've only got 380 health, so 1 or 2 shots and they're dead in the T2 phase of the game. Okay,
all right. Very slow, very awkward moving bombs that are really funny to use. Also known as... Is that a Skuttle? No,
this
the
is
next one's a Skuttle.
Bedbug. So this is
Bedbug.
The equivalent of the Tumbleweed, which you see a lot. These have one unit that I find effective. They're amphibious. They take out boats quite easily. They can take, especially if you use that Control D. What's it say here? Crawling bombs have a 140 AOE. And 216 when you self-destruct. So DPS on these, 2000.
Look, if you can get them into place, they're going to do damage. If the boats that you're fighting have torpedoes, then
you're going to struggle a bit more.
Yeah.
One thing for those people wondering... Sorry, one thing for people wondering how to use these. When you send them into the ocean, you need to keep them far enough apart. So that area of effect of 140, you got to keep these units 140 units apart from each other because they will chain react. I've seen people send lines of these in, and then the first one goes down, and you see this massive line of bedbugs or tumbleweeds blow up all the way back to the shore that they came from.
Worth keeping in mind if you're trying to hit a front line or something with them, whatever your own units that they're running through to get there are at risk until you've passed your front line.
Yeah.
For me, I haven't definitely blown chunks out of a front line doing something similar before.
For me, they're D tier because they're only really good in the water.
Yep.
They don't have many uses and they're not overly... Like, if you can get them there, they're great, but you need a specific reason to build them.
All right.
The only way I've seen... Oh, yeah, we can move on.
The slightly more fun to use Skuttle. The difference with the Skuttle, and it's unique to Cortex, is it can be cloaked. So if you can be in a map which doesn't have great radar coverage, these can be fantastic. I think, they're not stealth, but their self-destructs is ridiculous. The damage per second is 3,350. Like, insane.
I didn't realize they could be stealthed.
No, I'm saying they can't. So then if on maps where you can avoid a radar, so the larger maps, they have such like great use. If you can get like a transport to pick one of these up and somehow get it into their back line, you can just, because no one builds that many radars in their back line, you can just go find an eco and you Control D this on some build power. You'll just see a massive explosion in the back lines, and you only need one for that.
Are these ones where you can make them ISBIDs, but they still show up on radar? Is that how they work?
I believe so, yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But,
I'm looking at it now. They can cloak, but they're not stealth. So that means they'll be picked up on radar, but they will still be invisible.
If you can find 4 of these together, you can get them near a comm, and you Control D these 4 of these around a comm. I'm pretty sure it's 4 that kills a comm. Just another use of these. So 1 versus 1s, I had a game where I tried to use these. It's very hard to do. Tried to use these to take a commander out that was sitting next to the ocean and just crawled them out of the ocean. duck being amphibious, and unfortunately didn't have one of them in range, and they did that little chain reaction. But so close to killing a commander.
So
That
what you're
was a
saying is that
1v1
it's
versus pigs.
It was.
so you're essentially describing a better version of a duck where you can crawl out of the water, pop the aphis, and then half the base dies.
You know, I was gonna say C tier, but until you said a better version of the duck, oh sorry, I was gonna say D tier, but you're right. It's a better version of a duck, so it's going in the C tier.
The duck should be a B, but yes,
No.
this is a C tier. The ducks take out,
Nah,
completely
ducks are
take
terrible.
out navies.
Ducks are terrible.
You assume I'm in the water trying to deal with them, though. If I'm not in the water, not an issue.
Did you not
Yep.
see that free for all we did with the All Reason
Ducks
No
are
Logic crew where I was down, but I managed to take out a player just with a few ducks.
If
He
there's
was
water,
waterborne.
Rhaenyra's going to bring the flagship up behind me, and the base is dead anyway. So I'm not worried about the ducks.
Yeah, ducks are bad.
All right, back to it. Oh,
Commando.
man, I just made a video about these. They'll be dropping soon.
Commandos are awesome in theory, but they're a D tier unit because the thing they do is when they're in a transport that's destroyed, they parachute down. They're still useless.
And
well,
you have to waste the transport to get
Yeah.
them to fall.
You have to invest in a transport and a commando and the micro needed to do it, and then send them in when you could just use anything else in the game. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love it. And if you can, like, this is another one like the Ducks. If you can send me a game where you can prove just how damn good these things are, I'll revise my opinion. But these are a solid D until then.
you might get to see the short that we're going to drop shortly,
See the
where
short.
oh, you have seen the shot where
seen
you
the
can make one drop into an eco because it doesn't die. They bounce along the ground too if they land like on a unit or something else. They do almost as much damage as a Fiend. Just going to put that out there. So they can also build Dragon's Maws, so you can get them into a backline and then set up a little bit of a defense. But yes, that is pretty much all they do. They're a unit after that. So
D-tier.
I will agree with
Yep.
it. I'm just trying to promote that it is kind of fun and they are kind of
Oh,
cool.
look.
I love
Great
the
units.
concept behind them. I've just never found a use.
Yep. We even did a playtest on these ones to try and make them to try and make a use case for them. And
We
what
tried to
happened in
brute
that game?
force them.
Yeah, it didn't work.
Okay, Decoy Commander. Something
You
very
have-
unique to the Cortex team.
You have an interesting opinion on this one because you use it for espionage as espionage and fear tactics.
Yeah, well,
I think that they're expensive and not overly useful, but you're not wrong with your opinion.
well, yeah, 750 metal, kind of expensive. Its laser's reasonably good. Its health's okay, 3,700. But what they do better, as well as a normal commander, is if you're at that T3 stage of the game and you've got that first T3 unit out that you see so much in glitters, like it's like, oh, a Razorback's coming down the field. You see a commander, you do not send that Razorback any further because you've seen a commander and you know that that's going invisible. And these things can go invisible too, I think. Is that right? Oh shit, I've said that without actually checking. I have a feeling they do. I don't
Yes,
know.
you can cloak.
You can? All right, sweet. Thank you
Yeah.
for checking. So yeah, you show that commander, you put it on cloak. I should have known that because I've done it before. That Razorback doesn't push any further down through that canyon in glitters, just because they've seen it. And that gives you that time to then respond. You can ping over to your team. There's a T3 unit there. They can send over their sniper to take out that Razorback and slowly walk over there. And then you don't lose that early T3 push. That's why I love the Cortex Decoy Commander.
And this is probably a good point to make. That's sort of the difference of going from being a decent player to becoming a great player, is understanding some of those interactions rather than just throwing more fiends at the problem.
Mind
until it
games,
solves.
people, mind games.
I mean,
I have won
I'm just
plenty
gonna,
of the 1v1s with mind games.
I'm just gonna be honest. I'm the guy with the Razorback who just throw it at you anyway.
Yeah.
Well, that is
When
the
it dies,
thing.
more Razorback. You can't kill them all.
Yeah, so probably doing
But-
better against those higher tier players than the lower tier, maybe. I'm putting it
They
C,
all-
personally.
Interestingly, some of the things they can do, they do have build power. they can build mexes, and they're like they they're not the worst unit. They definitely do have some uses, particularly like if you're planning on using one to scare your opponents and do weird things, make them bomb the wrong place, who knows.
Mm.
If you make use of the other aspects of it, so using it as a constructor, using it to get in the water to get tidal generators if you need tidal generators, something along those lines. Hell, even if you use it to lay down mines, because it can lay
That's
down
about what I
mines.
was about to say. Like, you put down those mines while you're deterring that Razorback as well. Just the sound of those going off is enough to also steer away some of those heavier units.
I'm happy to put this one in a C tier because I don't think that it's detrimental to the game to build these, because as a 3000 health unit with a DPS of 294, it's expensive, but but it will actually fight, and it will fight okay. It has build power, it has utility, and it has mind games attached to it. C tier is that tier for things that you can build that aren't bad, but they're also not game-changingly good. I reckon that's perfect for them.
Hmm.
You can see they can capture, so that'll be fun to try and
They can
brute force
capture?
at some
I
point.
did not know that. Maybe I'll move it up there. No, we'll leave it at
Nope,
C.
C tier.
All right. Making the Sumo look like its little baby sister, the Mammoth, comes along.
I swing back and forth.
15,600 health for this big boy.
I swing back and forth on the Mammoth a lot. It's too slow, but it's also big and chunky and does a lot of damage. If you're stuck at T2 and your opponent has early T3, we're talking Razorbacks, we're talking Marauders, we're talking Shivas, it's actually not too bad. It's
I'd
not too
say
bad. If it's
really
going
good
up
against Armada.
spam,
Really good against Armada. I think the Shivas do a bit more against them. But the Razorback, one-on-one with a Razorback, it'll hold a Razorback back. Yeah. But
The biggest challenge I have with these is normally by the time they make it to the front line, the game's pretty much over.
these are a defensive unit. These are a stop yourself from losing unit.
if you're going for
And
a
in that-
rush down the middle of like Supreme Straits, like Supreme Isthmus, sorry, you're going to probably want to go for the Star or something similar like that, the Fat Boy, get that splash damage happening. These are great for taking out ticks and grunts and pawns and stuff like that. They're a meat shield after that, and yes, incredibly slow. So for me,
I'm actually.
C.
Oh, what you reckon? C, Tom?
Yeah, that's probably when you've got a use for them, they're good, but they're not the unit that you can build every single game and it'd be worthwhile.
I want it at the top of C.
Yeah, I think
And
that sounds right.
because as a defensive unit or as a slow push unit, it really is unparalleled.
Yep.
Yeah, when you get them slow pushing, supported with some spam and a bunch of Sheldons,
Yep.
there's
the way.
not much that really stops them.
Yeah, you're right. I've just snuck the Commando ahead of the Termite and the
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Sounds good.
Bedbug.
Though the duck should be at the end of the D tier.
I get fucked. I get fucked. Sorry,
No, right,
people.
yeah,
Now I can't put for children on the YouTube upload.
It was never. we have that ticked off as a default.
Okay, the Manticore,
Trash.
the last of the.
It's an F tier as well. They buffed it and it's still an F tier.
I reckon it's D after the buff. It takes out quite a few. It'll smash out any T1 air. It is absolute crap against the heavy bombers.
By the time you've got one of these, you're not concerned about T1 air anymore.
The thing is, its direct competition for Cortex is the flak truck.
And I would
No, that's wrong. That's wrong, actually. Both, for both teams, they both have a bot which is anti-air and it's missile based, and they both have a flak truck, the Armada and Core.
Yep.
So, is that what you were saying, or are you saying
Yes,
that?
I said the flak truck.
So yeah,
Fury,
you go to flak
its
truck.
direct competition in its own faction is the Fury.
Oh yeah, 10 times better.
And you are better off paying an ally to give you a Fury or building an entire new lab for Furies. Because if you need the kind of AA that requires a T2 mobile AA solution, you do not need the bot. You need the Fury. It's The Fury can actually shoot down units.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm still
With
sticking with
air,
D
they need to
tier.
be
What are
dead
you at?
before.
If it stays at the bottom of D tier and there is nothing else that goes ahead of it in D tier, I'll accept that. Otherwise, it should be an F tier.
Sounds like we should have made this a whole alphabet tier list.
No. It's like this is how all the tier lists work. You have the order they appear in the list is the
Yeah.
order that they.
No, fair enough. All right, Tom, where would you sit it?
I can't remember building any.
They're always part of
You
that composition that I was talking about. That
Yeah, because
early
you're
Sheldon.
forced to.
Yeah.
You literally are forced to. At that point in the game, you don't have the eco to have more than one T2 lab, and you have to have an AA solution, which means you have to build them. But if there was literally anything else in there, if there was the ability to have a grunt that could hit air in the same range as this, I'd have a whole bunch of grunts instead.
Mm. Okay.
I think by this point, I'm often building a long range anti-air to pick off those couple of things that are flying around.
Yep.
Expensive.
Yep. Like, look, I'm not saying that you're not going to build it, because let's just be real. If you're doing a Sheldon ball, if you're using Arbiters, if you're using probably Sumos, the only thing you're not going to attach him to realistically is Fiends. You are going to build these. And
But there
because you're
has
going
to
to
be an
build
air
these,
threat around for them to be viable.
well, even if there's no air threat, you're probably going to add one or two in just as a precaution so that they can't come in and bomb your Sheldons with one or two units. But just because you're forced to build a unit does not make it good.
All right. Let's leave it at D. Do you agree, Tom?
Yeah, we can leave it there.
Bottom of D. Time for T3. I think we're going to argue a little bit more here.
Oh yeah, this is where the controversy is going to kick up between us.
I am probably against most of the community members. I love Shivas.
Shivas are A tier.
Yeah, I love Shivas. I think they're A tier as well. Tom, what do you reckon?
I rarely get to T3 because I'm normally on the front line, hanging
Getting
on by a
absolutely
thread
dunked
with
on.
T1.
Losing your commander, the good old Tom Bomb.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta take something out when he goes.
I can see why people would probably put this on the B tier compared to A tier. Like, it does has the plasma and the rocket. They're a bit slow. For me, like,
They're so cheap.
they are only 1550, I think, metal from memory.
If you're at tier 3, these are so cheap.
Just getting them up on the front line, like, oh, they punch through.
And because you can mass them in as that first T3 push, they can crush through a fair bit of T2 and do a lot of damage in that initial push.
I can see in higher ranked games, yeah, like mid 30s and above, probably not as good, but those I'm sitting around 30 at the moment in the team games, and I find quite a bit of use if I'm in a slightly lower lobby and I'm one of the higher ranked players. Just getting them out to the front, and I don't have to micro them that much because they just get so much damage when they're not microed around properly.
And they're mildly tanky too.
Mildly.
Like unless your opponent has big high damage threat taking, like
they
units
take
that can take care of threats.
9,400.
9,400
health.
They've got enough health. You can run them down the side of the map, fight across the back of, and hit all the bases.
Yeah.
And even if you don't look at them after you give them that command, they'll do a lot of work.
They're 3/5 of a mammoth in health, and they're freaking a lot faster.
Yep.
So
they do fall off really hard though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you can get them to an eco, they're gonna
push, but not so much after that.
Yeah, early T3 push, these things are incredible, but once you start getting into that very late game, a Shiva is just not going to do anything. And I actually reckon for that reason and that reason alone, I'd put him at the top of B tier.
Okay. What do you reckon, Tom?
Yeah, I can kind of agree with that. They're great for a first push, and then after that, you're almost better throwing grunts at the problem.
I'm A. You guys are both B, so top of the B.
B. I like it.
Next one.
Insane AoE, insane range.
Huge.
We are
So
obviously talking about the Catapult, and it does exactly what the namesake is.
1350 range, damage 600. It sprays a bunch of missiles out. I can't remember how many projectile, but it feels like a million. Does a lot of damage to clumped up armies. If you can get one of these firing one of its first shots into an army that's unsuspecting, like it just does so much damage, and those armies fall down quick. If you can get a couple of these, if you can get a ball of these out, you get 5 of these out, they are devastating. So much damage, but they do fall quick.
What did you say its range was?
1350.
So it is the second highest range in the game. The only thing that outranges it is the Vanguard.
What's the Vanguard's range?
Vanguard is 1450.
Yeah, okay. And I'd say this 1350, there's a bit of a spray to that as well with the missiles.
Oh yeah, you can easily, like, if you target the edge of your range, you will actually also hit 1450 most likely, because it's giant AoE missiles.
Yep.
Well, sorry, it's a cluster of lots of AoE missiles.
Reminds me of that scene from Iron Man, where
the Jericho.
The Jericho shoots out and just blankets the hill. That's what this is with legs.
That's what this is. If you can get to a catapult, it'll die so quick. They are not sturdy units. They are reasonable on the
speed. They shouldn't be
speed.
on your front line. They should be sitting behind your spam and your chomp and your range.
And firing at max range. And if you can use these things effectively, they'll win you just about every game that you're in. Because unless someone is pushing through with a Behemoth or a Juggernaut or whatever, and you physically can't kill them in time, you'll be fine with catapults. And I think for that reason, they also fall into a B tier.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I thought we'd be disagreeing more.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, I'd love to say they're an A tier unit.
I think they're behind the Shiva.
And that's the thing. They can be, however, the reason I'm not chucking them in A is because even though they're such a strong ranged unit, they won't change the game. If you're losing, they won't stop you from losing. If you're winning, they won't make you win harder. They're just a really solid choice.
Part of a good composition. They're not a make or break unit on their own.
Yeah, they fall into the same. For me, they're exactly the same as the Thug. The Thug is a means to an end. The Catapult is a means to an end. Same tier.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, the next one, the Karganeth.
Kargi's an S tier.
You're an S tier. Jeez.
The
insane mobility. After playing the Kings games, my opinion on the Karganeth has changed completely. They absolutely dominate comms. They absolutely dominate bases. They dominate spam. They have phenomenal DPS, whether it's against single target or against multiple units. Their pure ability to move around the map, yep, they're a little bit on the slow side, and that's the only argument that I could say that would bring them down to an A. But the Karganeth pumps.
They're a really well-balanced jack of all trades.
I do love that they have an anti-air.
Yep.
But
they're not
having said that,
necessarily the best at any individual role, but they can fill pretty much all.
Yeah.
Yep.
They do have reasonably good range. 700 is not fantastic, but that's reasonably good. I will jump in there and say that they are great at the King of the Hill maps, because we are focused on one point. By the way, people, jump into our King of the Hill games every Sunday. Join the Discord, links in the always, mate, always. Got to get the people amongst it. That's the thing, we do these videos and then you forget, and you're like, oh bugger. Oh well, the link's in the description. The standard team games though, when you've got long fronts, I find they're not as effective. For me, that's putting it back down into the A tier.
On a map like Supreme Isthmus, on a map like All the Glitters, you're right. They're not actually S tier on those maps.
Because there's a lot of maps that they're not S tier, I think there's more maps that they're A tier. For me, it's A. What do you reckon, Tom?
I'd like to stick it up an S just because of how damaging they are in the Kings games, but I think A's probably right. They're the kind of unit where it doesn't really matter what the game is and what the terrain is. You can confidently build them and know that they're going to be good, and they can fill a lot of roles.
my heart wants to throw them into S tier because of that exact reason. They can fill almost any role, but I know they're actually the bottom of A tier.
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna die on my S tier hill. Since you guys are voting A tier, I could live on that S tier hill, and that's fine.
All right. Now we've got D for Demon. I'm putting it straight there.
Yep.
It's got
Man,
one
it's
use.
a fun unit.
It's fast. It's got huge DPS, but it dies quicker than the Shiva in terms
Big
of
boy fiend.
yeah.
It's a
like,
big boy fiend.
it is the upgrade. I just got to get the stats up for this just to see them myself because I don't use it as much as I
DPS
should.
of 1690.
Huge, huge.
Which means that it can kill a comm in 2 seconds.
I didn't realize how much health this has. It has 18,000 health.
Yeah, it doesn't feel that way though.
No, because
I know
I
that
see them
armor
go
isn't-
down so quickly.
Armor isn't a thing in the game as far as I'm aware, but man, this is like watching StarCraft
feel like
units
they're
with
made from
3
paper.
armor fighting StarCraft units with 0 armor.
Yeah.
Yep. It is a paper tiger.
How do you guys
Yeah.
sit with the D tier?
It is fine. You can't feasibly...
If you're
If you're
if you're
winning
trying to
and build these, no worries.
yeah,
But that's
if you've
it.
already punched through the front and you're just looking for something to run through it, sure. Or if you're looking to hold off some spam, they're great, but they're generally not worth building most of the time because there's a better option.
Yeah, yeah.
And now
Oh.
for the easiest S tier of the game, the Behemoth.
Hell no.
It is the biggest, the tankiest, the highest damagest unit in the game. It's an S tier.
As long as you can get it there in time.
It's
You
just-
said-
Its damage is
The
only
proxy a T3
1121.
proxy a T3 lab, it's fine.
The DPS is only 1121. Just comparing that to the
Giant-
Juggernaut, 4187.
Okay, so I got a question for you. Which one's cheaper?
9,000.
Behemoth?
Yeah, it is 9,000 cheaper
And which one wins in a fight?
against
It's
each
the
other.
Behemoth.
Yes.
Yep.
The Juggernaut is a walking
Nah.
atomic bomb.
Now, the
Yep.
Behemoth is an S tier through and through.
Not a chance.
Because
They're
it's-
too
yeah.
easy to take out with commanders. Looking at
Oh
this
yeah,
from
because
a,
if I throw a Behemoth with no spam
Behemoth.
around it, so a comm can walk up to me, yeah, I'm gonna do that because I'm good at the game.
we don't play
Uh-huh.
that. The thing is, if you're that good at the game, you just airdrop a commander next to it.
Yeah, because I'm totally gonna leave it completely undefended.
A lot
Yeah.
of people do. A lot of people do. I
Yeah,
personally,
well, that doesn't just because people play them bad
s-
doesn't mean they're not S tier.
Think
You
about
can't
it, we play a
surround
lot of
Behemoth
games.
with grunts and kill it
Yeah,
because they have way too much health.
I agree with
but
that.
you can surround a Juggernaut with grunts and kill it.
But yeah, if you throw enough grunts at a jug, it will die, particularly if you've got something shooting at it with some artillery. A Behemoth, you can't really kill. They
Yeah.
just keep on charging, not charging. They waddle slowly across the map,
Hmm.
but they just keep on walking. When
Hmm.
you see a Behemoth, you have to rally the entire army to specifically deal with it.
Yeah.
When it's a jug, you have to just move most of the stuff in the area.
These are the absolute perfect ultimate unit, and so we're gonna put it in C tier.
Which one's that? The Behemoth.
Behemoth.
You reckon
Behemoth.
C?
Yeah.
I thought you were saying S tier.
I was,
Yeah.
but it is a C tier unit.
You can't build them every
Yeah,
game
you can't
and
do.
win. You need
Look-
enough eco and enough time to build them, get them across the map, and actually shoot something.
I
A
love you,
Behemoth
Praetus.
is never the wrong choice, but the
When you can
amount
build
of
them.
money that you can put into them could be better spent elsewhere.
I was
It is
ready to
never-
drive to your
having a
house and knock
Behemoth-
you out if you were putting that in the S tier.
A Behemoth is never a bad choice if you can afford it. It will do exactly what it says on the box, so long as you're not completely and totally out of position with it.
And that's
But-
walk that way, keep going.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a slow win condition that requires lots of factors around it to prevent exactly what you're talking about, which is the comm D gun.
We see it so much in so many games when we see these units.
Yep.
We see them not reach bases. We see them go down, take out a shitload of units, but then get degunned.
And if you can play it the way that I was talking about it just before and talking about it as it was an S tier unit, then you know what? It can be an S tier unit. It can also be a B, a C, a D, and an F. It all comes down to how you play it, and that's why I said C at the end of the day.
Final unit of the game. Or the video.
Atomic Bomb on feet.
Juggernaut. For me.
It's not a Titan, so it's an F tier.
You like your Titans. I like Juggernauts, but they are expensive. Personally, I'd rather punch out like, I don't know what it is, 14 Shivas or 15 Shivas, whatever the equivalent is. Probably a little bit less. It's probably more like 10. Juggernaut would beat 10 Shivas easily, but I think I'd do more damage to an enemy in general rather than just attack the Juggernaut, which you try and take down with the Commander as well.
But the lovely thing about the Juggernaut is if the comm does get the D-gun on it, if you are caught out of position, the comm is going to hurt for it, and it's going to hurt a lot.
It'll probably die, because it's probably already
if you're edge of D-gun range, you live, but you can't kill two of them.
Yeah. Where do you reckon, guys? I'm dropping it in B right now for me. I don't know where you guys sit with this.
It's the kind of unit when you can get to the point where you can build it, they're never a bad idea.
I want it above the stealth bot in B. Yep. Yeah, I reckon I'm perfectly happy with that, because if you are in the T3 part of the game, you are going to have a mix of all T3 units, and a Jug has its place, and its place is very strong. Great damage from the shotgun, great damage and range from the laser. The ability to walk through water can change an Ithmus game in seconds, or minutes, because they take a long time to walk across. But the fact is, once they get there, it doesn't matter if they fail to do the damage, as long as they die next to something important.
If they're not taking out anti-air on their march as well, the gunships are going to probably start picking away at it, because it doesn't have that anti-air, I don't think, or if it does, it's a very
laser
weak
can
one.
shoot down air, can't it?
Can it? It's not that strong.
I know the Titan laser shoots down some air.
They have enough health that it's not a immediate concern, and
Also,
normally waiting towards whatever you're trying to kill.
Super important thing: if you can control DVs just before they die, then the enemy can't reclaim them. So
or resurrect them, which is always fun to do.
So definitely give that one a good go, because feeding a bunch of tier 3 units to an enemy, not great. That actually goes for most units. If you're going to lose them on enemy territory, it's not like, sometimes you want to do as much damage as you can with them before they die. Sometimes it's acceptable just to alt D them because they did their job.
And if you deny that metal to your enemy, they can't reclaim it all and then throw more of an army back at you.
Anyway,
there's the list, people.
There's the list.
I'm going to bring something up quickly before we end this video.
I know exactly what you're bringing up.
This is what we agreed on 6 months ago. We didn't make a video for that. We were just curious how we each ranked these. And the first time I'm looking at it since then. So we're definitely still of the same opinion for the S tier. I don't think we ranked these in order last time.
No,
we just put them in the tier, just looking at this.
For the win.
I was gonna say, we let you have the duck last time, but since then we've given up on that one.
We're better at arguing now.
How much nicer does the right hand side look like? There's a gap here that should be a duck.
It should not be a duck.
Quack,
duck
quack.
stuck.
We'll let you move the Shiva up.
I don't actually disagree with the Catapult being in the A tier. I also don't disagree with it being in the B tier, because it's all based on play, so I'm happy with that.
Arbiter dropped a position, or gained a position in this video. So
and I agree with that too.
I think we probably weren't as good at the game.
Everything from B and above, you can basically build pretty much every game without having to think too hard about it.
Yep.
C, you need reasons to build.
Yep.
D, you really need a reason to build it.
Or you're already winning and you just want to have some fun.
Yeah.
Or, you're in that one condition where your C lane is losing and you're winning on the front line, and you have a bot lab, and you have the ability to help C, and you decide to build ducks instead of building torpedo bombers or something like that. Then you can get ducks.
Quack, quack.
And I like that we created a tier just for the Trasher.
We did the
It's a
same
trash
last time too. I think that was a pre-constructed tier list. A little bit more colourful. We hope you guys enjoyed this video. We definitely enjoyed talking about this. It was good to revisit after 6 months to see how we weighed these up, and it looks like our opinions are somewhat the same. Seriously, like, shout out to the guys making this game. All these units are so fun to use. We're hopefully going to
they've
do
done a
one for
great
Armada.
job. And just for you guys who want to chuck it in the comments, tell us why you think we're wrong or right. Actually, back us up on the ducks. Definitely don't submit the replays of good duck games. Actually, no. Actually, do submit the replays of good duck games, because we're not going to get any. They're terrible.
If
yeah,
you
let us know where
do,
you
if
think
you
we're
do
wrong.
submit one, Tom and Pradith will be casting that one. They'll do a special.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Make sure you
And,
like and subscribe, and
Yeah, definitely that one.
jump in the
Join
Discord.
the Discord and play some games with us, and show us in game why you think that the Commando is such a good unit.
That's it, guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
See ya.